This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, and we are officially recording in case you didn't get that from the little announcement. So it looks like people are getting settled. I will go ahead and start. So hi everybody, I'm Miss Liz. I'm the Youth Services Librarian at the Hightstown branch of the Mercer County Library System. And I am so glad that you are all here today. If you want to have your cameras on, you can, as long as you remember we are recording and it will be on our YouTube channel. So if you're comfortable with that, that's fine. If you want to leave your cameras off, that's fine too. There should be an option in the middle if you want to change your view, and you can view who's talking, which currently is me, but then of course in a few moments it will be Saadia Faruqi, the author who we're all here to see. And of course anybody else who is going to be asking questions. So I'm hoping that you're all signed up for our summer reading program, at whichever branch you belong to. And basically we just want to keep you guys reading over the summer, keep you interested in reading, finding new things you like. So that's, you will register online at our website, www.mcl.org. And you just keep track of the minutes that you spend reading, and you're able to go into your local branches and get a prize. So, and of course, if you want to read any of Saadia Faruqi's books, you are more than welcome to. We've got her first one, A Place at the Table, which is fantastic and talks about so much good food. I was so hungry reading this book. And then her second one, 1,000 Questions, that we are going to talk about today. And then she has a third one coming out next month in September called Yusuf Azim is Not a Hero. So can't wait for that one. And then for any younger
my Yasmin books.
Yep. For younger readers, we've got our Yasmin books. Right, so there are like beginning chapter books, and at my branch in Hightstown, we have them in English and Spanish. So if you are learning Spanish or able to read Spanish, you got that option too. Okay, friends, so thank you all so much for coming, and we're just going to get started with some questions. You can either type your question into the chat box and I can read it, or you can unmute yourself and ask your question out loud, whatever you are most comfortable with.
Yay, I'm excited. Thank you for inviting me to the library, and thank you all of you who are here for maybe reading my book, maybe just wanting to hear more about it, and ask all your questions, give me your comments. If you read the book, what did you think? Who was your favorite character? Who did you absolutely hate? And if you haven't read it yet, then I hope that you read it after, talking to me today. So who's first?
Valerie, did you have a question? I see you're not muted, so do you want to ask a question? We all found the mute button, right? You can unmute too.
No, no one's
No, you don't have a question right now.
Okay. Interesting, actually.
All right, let's see. I'm seeing Dixon Rodriguez. I'm seeing that you guys are talking. Did you have a question? Or you're talking to each other?
Yeah, I'm trying to tell him, not yet.
Not yet. You want to get the perfect question? I think you got it already. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I already wrote it on paper.
Let's
do it.
Did you read the book yet?
Which one?
Whichever one. Did you read any of my books?
Yes, because my dad bought it. Like,
Very cool. Thank you, Dad.
I didn't see it over there, but then my dad found it and bought it.
What did you think? Which one was it?
1,000 Questions.
Yeah. Did you want to ask me something about it?
Are any of your characters based on real people?
Oh my gosh, as a writer, all my characters are based on somebody or a combination of people. That's how writers are. We kind of just like look at people. I often tell my kids, don't do anything weird or strange, or don't make me mad, I'll put you in a book. Um, and honestly, a lot of my main characters are all kind of based on my own children. So I'm a mom. I have a son who's in high school, and I have a daughter who's in middle school. When my daughter was little, she was maybe 5 or 6 years old. I started writing the Yasmin series, which Liz was showing you. So like these, there are 16 books in the series now. And I totally based Yasmin on my daughter, who was a little girl at that time. Now she's not, and she thinks it's awful that I've done this, but I don't care. The series is super, super popular. Kids read it all over the world, and nobody knows that. Well, some people know that it's based on her. For 1,000 Questions, Mimi, one of the girls, the American girl, is kind of based on my daughter. Actually, both a combination of both my kids. So I put in some things from her and some things from him. And Sakina, the other girl, the girl who's from Pakistan itself, is kind of based on how I was like as a kid. So not all of it. Usually we kind of combine things and people and maybe take one characteristic that we want to put from one person. So I love doing that. It makes the characters more realistic. Did you like any of those characters better than the others?
Not really.
Well, I guess then I did a good job if they were all pretty good for you, huh?
Well, yes, you did.
Okay,
I
thank
mean, it's called 1,000 Questions, but I've read it 1,000 times.
Did you have any questions by the time you finished?
Not really, no, but I'm like, except, can you write a sequel?
Oh my gosh. You are like only the 100th kid who said that to me. Every time I talk to kids about this book, they all say that. Unfortunately, I'm not writing a sequel. The reason is that what you don't know and lots of readers don't know is that sequels are not really in an author's control. It's the publisher, the company that makes the book, that decides if a book gets a sequel or not. And they base it on really boring things like how many copies they sell and how well it's doing in the market. I don't know, like it's not my fault, right? Anyway, so they haven't asked me to write a sequel. Also, um, I've kind of moved on from this book. I wrote it a few years ago. It takes several years for a book to come out, so I wrote it at least 2-3 years ago, and I don't even remember a lot about it. I'm now writing other books, so it's kind of hard for me to go back and get my head into that world. So no plans. I feel like it's done, but you never know. You never know. If they ask me, hey, write another Mimi and Sakina story, I guess I'll have to. So then I'll think about it. But you know what? If you're a writer, you can do what's called fan fiction, which means that you can write your own story based on this world or these characters, and that can be your special thing. If you like writing, even if you don't, it's a good way to practice. So, I used to do that when I was a kid. I would write fiction based on the books that I read and enjoyed as a child.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Saadia. I mean, I think, in the book, Mimi asks more than 1,000 questions, but
She
then
does.
as it ends, I had a ton of questions at the end. What's going to happen next? Where's this person going? Are these people going to see each other again? So I highly recommend that you read it, because if you haven't, there's so many different ways that you can imagine the ending. And yeah, if anybody does write their own fan fiction sequel, I'd love to know about it.
And I love doing that as an author. I love writing stories that are kind of open-ended. The plot's ended. Everything that was supposed to happen in the story has happened, but it's still kind of, it makes you think, what's going to happen when Mimi goes back to America? How is Sakina going to like her school? Things like that. Because that way then my readers keep thinking about the book, and even when they finish, they're like still in that world, which is the best thing for me. That's what I want, right? So I like stories which have just a little bit of like uncertainty at the end of it.
That's cool.
Yeah, you don't want to wrap it up too neatly because then you're right, people would forget about it. Yeah, definitely. Anyone else with any questions? Go ahead, either type them in the chat box. If you're on a laptop, the chat box should be the little speech bubble thing up in the top right. You go ahead and type that in and I can read it for you.
You
If
can
you
also have
feel-
a comment. You don't have to have a question.
True, you can also just comment.
Yes.
So I've read Place on the Table, and I was
Mhm.
wondering one thing. Why did you pick up two completely different flavors of tea? You picked up chai and then you picked up Earl Grey.
Did you mean for the recipe?
Just generally in the book, because it was combining a bunch of different things like halwa
Yes,
and
I
Earl Grey.
know. So for those of you who haven't read this book, A Place at the Table, this is another story. I actually co-wrote this story with my friend Laura Chauvin, who's also a middle grade author. And this is a story of two girls, Sarah and Elizabeth. Sarah is kind of like my family or my kids. She is Muslim, she is Pakistani American, she is brown. And Elizabeth is white and Jewish with a mom who's from England. And they are so different from each other, but they get to be friends because they're in a cooking club after school together. And their moms are kind of becoming friends as well because both of their moms are applying for citizenship to the US. And things are kind of, there are people who are mean and there are kids who are mean, but there's a cooking competition that they have to, they're kind of participating in, and they want to create the perfect recipe to win the competition. So that's the background of this book, if any of you haven't read it. And are you Zainab?
Yeah.
Hi, Zainab. So Zainab's asking why we talk about two totally different kind of teas, where one is Earl Grey and one is chai. Chai is kind of like the generic South Asian kind of tea. And the reason is actually it's not just the tea. There are lots of foods. There's a lot of food mentioned in that book, especially because it's a book about a cooking club, and most of the book takes place during the cooking classes. So almost every chapter has like a theme, a dish that they make, and their recipes and all that fun stuff. But the two girls are very different from each other. One is British and one is South Asian. And so we wanted to, Laura and I, my co-author and I wanted to bring those two cultures together in the book. So that's kind of what those two different teas represent. One is chai, which is Sarah and her family's cultural comfort food, comfort drink almost. And then there's Earl Grey, which is very typically British. And we wanted to showcase both. And a lot of times, you have that kind of contrast. So that's why I did it. There are a lot of other foods in the book too, which are either Pakistani or British. And then in the end, when there's a competition, they actually combine those two cultures and two flavors to make a fusion dish, which is a food of two different places. So if any of you haven't read that book, I hope that you check it out. It just won several awards. So I'm really pleased about that as well.
Thank you.
And Zainab, if you haven't read 1,000 Questions, I hope that you read that, and I hope you like that too.
I read that one too.
Oh, did you have any questions about that?
Why this machine?
Not really.
Okay. Anyway, I heard another kid talking. Sorry.
So we have a question in the chat, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Is Vicentia? I'm not quite sure. She wants to know where you are from.
Ooh, that's a good question. So right now I am speaking to you from Houston, Texas, which is kind of far from where you are. I have lived in Texas for more than 20 years, but I wasn't born here. I wasn't even born in the US. I was born in a country called Pakistan, which is I believe 8,000 plus miles away, which sounds mind-boggling. It's in Asia. It's near more commonly known countries like India and China. And I was born there. I grew up there. I went to school and college there. And then I came to the US when I was 22 years old. So I've kind of lived half of my life in two very different places. And so I'm an immigrant, which means that you were born somewhere else and now you live here. And when I write my books, I write about people like me, people who are from somewhere else, people who have a kind of a culture that's slightly different from a lot of other people. And I like to talk about things like that in my books.
Fantastic. Yeah, thankfully, because of the technology, we're able to speak with you from Houston, because you're right, that would be quite a trip for us to get down there.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love how I can speak to all my readers on the computer and you can read. Maybe some of you read my books digitally as well on the computer. So it's very cool.
All right, and does anybody else have any questions or comments? Anything they want to? Okay, Iman has a question. Thank you, Iman. She wants to know what your religion is.
Hi, Iman. I am a Muslim. How about you? Do you want to share? Or I shouldn't ask that, but I'm guessing you asked because maybe you identify with that as well. She says me too.
Very cool.
You can guess with my scarf, right? It's called a hijab. So a lot of times when people look at me, they kind of know a little bit about me, which is fine. I love that. But thank you for asking anyway. I actually have a niece called Iman. And Iman, I have a new series coming next year from Scholastic called Must Love Pets. It's a pet sitting series about a girl called Iman who starts a pet sitting business with her friends to convince her mom that she's responsible enough to have a pet of her own. So there's gonna be right now and the start 4 books in that series. It's like middle grade, but it's not as thick, not as long as 1,000 Questions. And the main character is Iman. So next year, I hope when it comes out, you check it out.
That's got to be cool to have your name in a book. Actually, I was happy that there's an Elizabeth in this one. I was like, oh, that's me.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that a lot of, like, Elizabeth is still a pretty common name, but Iman's probably never seen a book with her name on it, and a lot of us, like me and my kids, so I love to include names that some of us may have never seen in books. So since Iman is my niece's name, I decided to name the main character after her. And now you can say she's named after you too, Iman.
Yeah, and Iman's dad says, wow, we are definitely getting that. Thanks. So yeah, it's not every day.
You have to wait until next year. If you are in a school that has Scholastic book fairs, it'll actually be available there much earlier, I believe in January. And if not, then you have to wait like the rest of us I think it's summer. But yeah, but I'm looking forward to that. There's lots of pets and there's lots of funny stuff going on. It's it's my first funny book series that I've written. I tend to write serious stuff, but this is good and it's funny and it's fun.
Well, it's definitely something to look forward to. So that'll be great. Adviti asks, have you based any books on your imagination completely?
All of these books are based on my imagination. And none of these books A Place at the Table or 1,000 Questions or any of the Yasmin books. There are 16 books already in the Yasmin series, but they're all made up. But it's very hard for a writer to have 100% imaginary things, because when you write, it's a very personal thing. You put yourself or your experiences in your writing, even if it's fiction. So even though I made up 1,000 Questions, some of the places, like it's actually set in Karachi where I grew up. So that part of it is true, but it's still a made up story. So I don't think any writer will say their work is totally made up or totally imaginary. There's always some parts of you, people that you think of that you kind of base your characters on, or places that you visited. Even if you're writing like sci-fi and you're setting your book on Mars, you're still going to come up with something that is familiar to you. So yeah, but I mostly write fiction.
So I'm going to go ahead and ask a question about your next book that's coming out next month. So the books that we've talked about so far all have girls as their main characters. And I noticed that Yusuf Azim is not a girl.
It's a boy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what made you decide to switch and write from a boy's perspective instead?
Well, yes, this is my latest book. It's called Yusuf Azim is Not a Hero. It's a middle grade novel, just like 1,000 Questions and a Place at the Table, and it's coming out on September 7th. It's basically, I decided to write a boy character because all my readers were asking for it. They were like, you write so many girl characters, when are you gonna write a boy character? And honestly, I don't like that, because I know you guys, if you're a girl, you can read about boys, and if you're a boy, you can read about girls. It's not a big deal. But still, I felt like a lot of boys were feeling left out, that there wasn't a boy on the cover. So this is not only a boy on the cover, this is a boy's name on the cover, which is really cool. This is a book about Yusuf, who lives in a small Texas town, and he's really into robotics. So he's really excited about starting middle school and participating in this regional robotics competition. But he notices that things are kind of weird and uncomfortable in his town. The 20th anniversary of 9/11 is coming up, and there are certain people in the town who are being very mean to his family and his friends, and he can't understand why. And no adult really has an answer for that. And he kind of just is watching and experiencing a lot of bullying going on, not just in his school by kids, but also in his town by adults to each other. And he realizes that somebody should do something, but everyone keeps telling him, no, just be quiet. You can't do anything. Don't be a hero. And even the adults are kind of scared of people in the town. And at some point, he starts reading. See, he's reading a book. This is actually a journal that he finds that his uncle wrote when he was a kid in 2001, and the journal describes 9/11 as it actually happened 20 years ago. So as he reads more and more of the journal, he kind of realizes that so many things have not changed in our country in the last 20 years and have actually become worse. So even though everyone's telling him to just be quiet and keep his head down and don't engage with the bullies, he realizes that somebody has to be a hero. And if nobody's willing to do it, then he has to stand up and do it. So a lot of sad things happen in the book, but there's a lot of laughter and a lot of jokes and a lot of robotics. So I hope that you check it out. September 7th is when it's coming out. And I'm very excited about it, as I am with all my books. I hope that my readers like it.
Great, thank you. I think it'll be, another really good book to kind of get you thinking, get you, like you said, laughing, all kinds of things. I have someone here says, how does someone become a writer like you?
Oh, well, depends on, well, there are different paths to writing. You can be a writer just for yourself. You can be a published author like me. There's so many different ways that you can be a writer. And even if you never have a book that's published, doesn't mean you're not a writer. If you're writing regularly and it's your passion, then you get to call yourself a writer. If you're a kid, then I would really encourage you to be writing a lot. When I've been writing stories since I was, oh my gosh, maybe in 3rd grade. I used to have notebooks and I would just write anything and everything in them. And I never showed them to anybody. So nobody in my family, not even my mom knew. Well, maybe my mom's kind of knows stuff, so maybe she knew, I don't know. But I never shared my writing with anyone, but I kept doing that. And as I grew older over the years, my stack of notebooks grew and grew. but I didn't actually become serious about it and think that this is something I wanted to share with the world until I was a grown up. I had moved to the US, I was a mom. And then when my second child was born, that's when I said, I'm going to start trying to write for other people, not just myself. So I had many, many, many years of practice. So the important part about being a writer is to really write a lot. Read a lot of books, read all the time. If you're not a big reader, it's really gonna be impossible to be a good writer, because that's how you learn. That's how you learn about words and stories, by reading them, right? And read a lot, and then write regularly. So just have a schedule, whether it's every night, 10 minutes before bedtime, or every Saturday morning, you're not going to do anything else. You're going to write no matter who tells you to come and play video games or come in, whatever. Just have that schedule and keep doing it over and over and over. Maybe take some classes, your public library, or online. There may be classes that you can take to improve your writing. Maybe find some competitions you can take part in. And it'll take several years, but you'll soon see that your writing is improving, and it'll improve to the point that you maybe write something that you can send out to publishers. But that's a very, very long journey, especially if you're a kid. Just think right now about making writing and reading a regular part of your day. That's a really important part of your day. I mean, for me, that's what I do, right? I read. It's fun to read, but I also think of reading as something that I have to do every day, because I want to become better and I want to learn from other writers. So do that.
That's great advice. I like the idea of the schedule. That's really, really helpful. Okay, let's see. I'm seeing a couple other ones. I'm seeing, did you base your childhood and your childhood personality on Sakina's character? Or did you base Sakina on your own childhood from 1,000 Questions?
Not my childhood. So I grew up poor in Pakistan, but I wasn't as poor as Sakina. So my parents still, they were not servants. They were still working. My mom was a teacher. My dad worked at a bank, but we were poor. We struggled. I remember days when I didn't have a lot to eat. I remember, not getting new clothes or things like that. But it was not as like Sakina. I was able to go to school. And but because I grew up poor, I had a lot of feelings that Sakina had. The being mad at the world, and being mad at being kind of envious of other people. She actually is kind of jealous of Mimi, right? Because Mimi has all those things that she doesn't, and she is mad because her dad is ill and doesn't have money for medication. So that was kind of like me. So even though I didn't have a life like Sakina, I had a lot of emotions like Sakina did. And so I put that. That's why I say I based Sakina on myself as a kid, just like what I would feel. And so that's what I mean by when you're a writer, even if your stories are made up, even if characters are made up, you can put a lot of your own emotions or other people's emotions in your characters, and they come to life.
Great, and I think we've got time for about one last question, and we're going to end on, would you rather be Sakina or Mimi from 1,000 Questions if you could choose?
Oh my gosh, that's hard. I like both of them. That's like asking me to choose two of my own babies. I can't choose. I would rather be a grown up in the book, because I'm an adult, so it's hard for me to want to be a kid, because now I know, kid life is kind of difficult because you have to depend on adults.
I thought every
Mimi's kind of based on my own kids, so I feel like that's something that I identify with. But it's hard for me to choose. All of you probably will find it easy to choose one character over the other, but believe me, when you're the creator of those characters, then you love them equally, even if they're villains. That's their part of you.
All right. Anybody else want to share
any questions?
One last comment or anything? I think we're good. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much, Saadia, for coming and sharing this time with us. We really appreciate it. It's not every day you get to meet authors who, come up with the characters and ideas in all these pages. So, I hope everybody learned something and enjoyed. If you haven't read the books, don't forget to check them out. 1,000 Questions, A Place at the Table, the Yasmin series. And then, of course, she mentioned Yusuf Azim is Not a Hero, comes out next month. And then next year, we'll be looking forward to the books about Iman and all the pets. And I know Iman is totally going to get on this.
Iman's waving. Thank you so much, all of you, for reading my books, for supporting my work, to the library and to my readers. You can't be an author unless you have readers and people who kind of tell of others. So I hope that if you like any of my work, you tell your friends and your family about it as well. And I will probably see you at some other time on some other computer screen somewhere.
Yep, definitely.
Bye.
She's got plenty of videos out there. Thank you guys all so much. Enjoy the rest of summer vacation.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's the end.
Yep.
Bye.
Yep. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.